Greetings, bloggers, vloggers, followers, and potters. Dustin here from Dustin's Dynasty with another edition of this week's vlog. If you haven't been following me, I've been doing this autism thing. I've been diagnosed 25 years ago. I've been living on my own for almost, I had to think for a minute, um, about 7 years now. That's even hard to say. In a couple more months, it'll be 7 years. And I've had a part-time job for 15 years. And all while balancing life's expectations, life's challenges, we do this autism thing. And sometimes I guess what leads us into this week's topic. Autism is hard. And some people want to say that there is an easy autism, that people like me who can communicate well and conduct themselves well, that it's easy for us, right? But in reality, it has its struggles. There's days I challenge to get to this point, today. It's a challenging life with autism. It's not something it's the hand I was dealt. And I've done pretty well for myself. Sometimes I don't think that. Sometimes there was a lot of times before when I wouldn't think that. And now, I see that I've done great things and I continue to do great things. Been through a lot of change over the last few years. Has it been easy? Absolutely not. Every change has had its own struggle in its own way. Um, I wish, it would be easy in that own way, but autism's not easy. And we can blame things on autism. We can people like to throw these ideas out there, but I just know I have autism. That's just part of who I am. It's always been a part of who I am. I mean, I've searched for a diagnosis 25 years ago. Within 5 minutes, it was landed to me. That's just how it is. Um, but it's not easy, and things are hard. And when people think about autism or being autistic, however you put yourself in that realm, I kind of interchange it. But when you think about it, you think about the negative. Some people think about the burdensomes, the hindrances in life, the being reactive or exploding and getting into these meltdowns and reacting and causing a lot of aggression, anger, feelings of such. And I have those feelings too. But as I'm older now, and I'm 40 years old, I just turned 40 years old last week, you know, those have subdued for the most part. And, there's still feelings of anger. They're there. I just know I have to channel those feelings in a much better way than being reactive, than acting like a brat. Now, often we say that meltdowns happen, and it's proven that meltdowns happen themselves when the environment is not right for the autistic person. But sometimes we just don't want to do things because we can't say what we want. Why things are too hard for us or too much for us. We can't say it. And when we can't say it, people think of us as a brat. And sometimes we have to be strong. And there's many times I'm strong, and I think sometimes seeing that I need to be strong and do what's right and, push through that anxiety that so much is co-occurring, with autistic people. We worry about doing things and challenges and things that are hard for us. It doesn't matter where you fall on the spectrum. That's what autism is, the spectrum. It's hard for everybody in their own unique way. Um, just so happens that new things are hard for me, and change is hard for me. Change is hard for a lot of people on autistic people. We thrive off of routine. It's there. It's something that we can always rely on. But what if that what we rely on isn't always there? What if our safety nets, our security blankets were not there? And that had to make me grow up. That had to make me realize that I had to take the initiative myself to work at my emotions and handling them in a much better way than what I was. It's been a long few years. In this 7 years of living independent, it's not been until this year, calendar year wise, that I've understood the need of taking care of my mental health. And now that I have, and I'm in a much better mindset, even though there have been many changes and many meltdowns that I even regret, um, you know, it's sometimes, realizing how I was in those reactive moments that make me become stronger and see that maybe others were looking at me. Maybe they didn't like what they see, or maybe they thought I was a jerk, or maybe just somebody who didn't need to belong on this planet. And I know I need to belong on this planet. I know I can do great things. I do great things, and I know that. And I wouldn't be where I would be if it wasn't for the things I can do and the things I can accomplish and the persons I can be there for. And I know that may seem silly in a way, but maturing not only by taking care of my mental health, but also my emotional health and looking at, there are expectations and there are rules and there are procedures out in this world. And by having a meltdown, by throwing a tantrum, by by reacting in a way that is not appropriate, does not give me a pass at at getting out of something just because it may be too much for me. There are expectations in this world. Um, it doesn't matter what your disability is. It doesn't matter if you tell somebody, "Oh, I had a bad day," or "Oh, because I'm autistic." That there are some instances where that cannot be excused. There is a reality where I and many others know right from wrong. And that autism can't be used as an excuse. Your disability cannot be used as an excuse. Yes, things are tough. Yes, things are challenging. Autism's not easy, and I keep saying that because it isn't. It takes a lot for me to get through things. But I think, having the tools, having the techniques, knowing what you need to do to manage yourself and get through those challenging times and work on those emotions and not react and not have a meltdown. And, I think as time had evolved, when I was having these meltdowns or when I was getting angry, sometimes it was that when it was all said and done, and people who looked up to me, other individuals, other people, look up to me and said, "Why would you do that?" Or what are you okay? Or, that would never expected that out of you. And, and in recent weeks with all the changes, I think about that a lot. I think, you know, now I don't have the latitude that I once had when, I could throw a fit or react if I didn't like something, or I would get upset and, have a way out of it. Um, you know, when it doesn't matter, when autism is known or autism is put there or your diagnosis is there. It's about knowing right from wrong. It's about, if I know that something is not the right way to react, or that reacting in the way that I would react that with something I don't agree with, or is not, or that I don't like, is is not only going to cause a reaction, but it's going to stir others up, and it's going to bring a side of myself out that no one expects of me because they think of me as this person. who people look up to me. And I'm not saying that to gloat myself because I walk into places where I am safe, I am supported, and people look up to me. And I don't think I've ever really came out as saying that. But knowing that people look up to me, I know that there is an expectation of what is expected in that environment, what people look in me, what people see in me, what people expect me, how to conduct myself in those environments, in public, out in the open world where anything could happen. Things happen in life. And if anything has taught us over the past 5 years, anything can happen at the drop of a hat. This year has seemed to be that way. Last year has seemed to be that way. And even the latter part of the year before. And while things can be more adaptable for me and I'm willing to be more accepting of change, it's hard. I get it. It's part of me wants to throw in the towel. Part of me wants to be angry. But I know that doesn't solve the problems. And I know that even though there are things in this world that I must endure that I do not agree with, it's part of life. It's something that, you have to see that even though it is something that is challenging for you and that, it may not even bother, it may not even affect me. It may not even bother me. It, it's the nucleus of the issue of the reality of the why and the how. What is my why? What is my how? I need to be there first, my support for my personal needs, for my need for support, because in reality of this world that we live in, and with everything that has been handed in my family in the past year, and there was a lot of time, with my father that when he was not, he had his injury, and even, as the latter part of him being in the rehab and returning home, knowing that my mother would be a full-time caregiver, that, you know, she wasn't going to be around a lot, and that I would have to be more independent. I would have to fend more for myself. I would have to find others for support. I would have to, be willing to entertain myself. I would have to accept hard realities. Is it easy? No, it's not. It's not easy. It's something that I struggle with even today. And even as I shared in a phone call with my mother today, it's hard. It's not easy. It's not easy for her either. And it's just the hand you're dealt. Sometimes you're dealt the hand in life that isn't easy. And just because you're autistic doesn't mean that it's harder, yes. And autism has its parts. Anxiety has its parts. Its co-occurring realities have their parts. But in the end, you have to know what's right from wrong, what you need to do to take care of yourself, how to manage you, how to channel that emotion, how to channel that energy that you are experiencing, how to take care of yourself, and how to find time for self-care. It's all in how you find it. It's not how anybody else finds it. It's not how it is. Um, you know, there's a reality that I see today as I'm been here, and it's been a struggle just to get to this point in the day to where I need to do my vlog. And I could put it off, I could put it off, I could dawdle around, I could practice self-care all I wanted. But in the end, I know this is healthy for me. I know I need to do this. This is a part of the weekend routine. Autistic people thrive off of routines. And in reality, it's what I need to do. But when we look at that day and we see that how so much of a struggle that was, we need our other thing. I need my other things in my life too. I need my job. I need my day supports. And to do those things, you have to be mentally well, and you have to know not to react to things. You have to know the right from wrong, and you have to learn that sometimes you don't always get what you want. And things don't always go the way that you want, but you have to do what works for you. You have to know why you're there, and you have to do what is expected. And sometimes that's not pleasant. Sometimes we don't want to hear things that we don't want to hear. It can be hard to hear things. It can be upsetting. It can be challenging. we, we have this differentiate in the autism community between what is a meltdown, what is a shutdown, and what is a tantrum. And sometimes I have to be honest, sometimes, many times I've thrown a tantrum because, you know, I didn't get my way. Or that, things were too much for me. Maybe they were too much, and maybe I did have a meltdown. But that is something when I navigate those other worlds, those day services worlds, those employment realms, that is not something that I don't want others to see when I react in a way that I know is not appropriate. I know what is right from wrong, and I know that, as much as autism is in my life, I know how to channel my energy in the way that it is needs to be done and that when it is done appropriate, when it's appropriate, and the place that is appropriate to do so. I know that it's okay to ask for help. I know that, if I need to talk to somebody, I know who those people are. But the reality is, those people who were in my life or are still in my life cannot save me in the way that they did before. And there's only so much that those people could have ever gave me at this moment. And, a lot, it's part of understanding too that, you know, I'm on my own now. And even though they're there, I'm on my own. I am responsible for my own reactions. I have to take responsibility for my actions. And part of that is not reacting to things that I don't agree with or that, are just to start a fight or to make a point known. There are ways to do that, and there are ways to do that appropriately. But it's not worth fighting over. It's not worth causing reactions. It's not having those stares that are so unwanted. It's not having to have those discussions that are so hard to have. And I think when we look at, meltdowns or shutdowns or tantrums or anytime we react in a way that is not expected of us, it not only shocks people, it makes us, it makes them think about us differently. But it also, when it's all said and done, we feel like crap. We feel so horrible. We feel so terrible about the things we said or the things that we've done. We feel horrible. We feel like shit. And I'm just going to say it like it is because I have been there. And it is somewhere that I never want to go. It, you don't realize when there was a moment that I have reacted and others, including those who admired me for who I was, looked at me and said, "Why?" And you don't have the answer. It makes you feel so horrible. It makes you feel like you're a failure. But eventually I picked myself up and I moved on from it. Part of that I had to take responsibility for, of course. Part of that I had to move on. Part of things you don't get to always say goodbye in the way that you need to say it. Sometimes you just got to move forward with life. It's not easy. Life is not easy. Being autistic or having autism, it's not easy. But you can't give up. You have to keep going. And for me, I think in this moment when I've been dealt the hand that I've been dealt along with the rest of my family, having things in my life like day services, work, are things that I need right now. And part of that is that I got to take responsibility for myself. And part of that taking responsibility means that I got to take care of myself. And I know right from wrong. If there's anything I don't know in 40 years, it is knowing right from wrong. And being like a little brat or reacting to something just doesn't solve problems. It's talking those things out. It's addressing those things in a way that is healthy and appropriate and can work for you. It takes time. It's not easy. I'll get it. I get it. Today's not been easy, but I got through it. And we'll get through it tomorrow and the next day.
But we got to enjoy life. We got to enjoy the little things. And that's, it's what it is. But it's ultimately knowing what's right and what's wrong. And knowing that you have to understand, and I know that. And I know when I go outside in this outside world, there is reality. And there are expectations, there are rules, there are policies, and there are laws, and they must be followed. And that, just because I have autism or I'm autistic, as I like to interchange those terms, it doesn't mean that I get a pass. It doesn't mean just because of that. The world's very unkind sometimes. Not everybody's going to understand, and that's just how it is. So it's being my best because I know I have to be, and that, there's understandings and expectations that have to be followed. Um, you know, I plan on having a good rest of the weekend. We're going to expect some heat here in southwestern Pennsylvania the next few days. The best thing we can do about it is stay cool, not complain, drink water, why not? And have the best weekend we can. So I want to thank you for listening today. If you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe. I see we got a bunch of new subscribers last week. I want to thank you for joining. It's been really appreciative. I love the numbers going up. Let's keep sharing with everybody. I'm sure a mutual share can always help. If you haven't already, be sure to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Pinterest. That handle is Dustin's Dynasty. I'm on the web. That address is www.dustin'sdynastyusa.com. And lastly, I have a link tree with all my links to my podcasting platforms and my socials. That handle is Dustin's Dynasty under Linktree. Again, I want to thank you for listening, taking the time with me this weekend. Let's have a good weekend. And remember, you are matter, you are enough, and you are loved. Take care of yourselves, guys. Stay safe out there, stay cool and hydrated, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.